So I want to take a moment just to introduce you, Darren, to the group, and thanks again for being here. Not only have you achieved tremendous success in business, but you've demonstrated resilience and leadership through life's trials. And so honored to introduce you, Darren Sugiyama, today, a true legend in the insurance industry. We had the chance to meet a couple years ago out in San Diego at an event that I was at, big time in premium financing. I know you have a background in health benefits, et cetera, and you've done some amazing things in business, and I'd love to hear some of those success stories, maybe some of the challenges along the way. But you're the author of several influential books, including How I Built a $37 million insurance agency in less than 7 years. So no small feat there. The ultimate guide for the aspiring entrepreneur, which this group is all a bunch of entrepreneurs. So, you're talking to people maybe that were exactly where you were 10, 15, 20 years ago. And your words go a long way here today. Your unique marketing mind and passion for helping others has helped you achieve these levels of success. You're the CEO of LionSmart Capital. I know you've mentored several professionals across industries. And despite all your successes, life has its challenges. And notwithstanding maybe the most challenging that you've experienced in your own life so far recently, would love to hear some of your thoughts around the challenges that you've recently faced in family, Darren. So I'd like to, give you a warm welcome here. Thanks for joining us. And I got a couple questions that I got here to get us going.
Yeah, glad to be here. Honored to be here.
I do so appreciate it. So you've got a couple books under your belt. You got a couple businesses under your belt. Can you share a moment of failure or hardship? Inevitably you can't get to success without some stumbling and some failures along the way that I'm sure have taught some valuable lessons for you, both in business and in personal life. Are there any moments that stand out to you?
We only have 20 minutes here, right? I got more failures and challenges throughout my career than you could even list. I mean, it's ridiculous. I think the biggest challenge starting off was kind of transitioning from being in the educational field to being in the business world. My background, I have a master's degree in multicultural education. I was a high school teacher in Hawaii. I tutored inmates in prison. I counseled kids that were in and out of lockup in detention homes. I ran a gang prevention program in my hometown in Long Beach, California. And so kind of moving from that space into the business world and eventually into the financial space was a challenge, right? Completely different world. The first year in the insurance business was the year 2003, and I still have my tax return for the year 2003 right behind me on
Did you
on
owe
my desk.
anything?
I made $277 for the whole year profit on my tax return. So people say, well, how'd you survive? Well, I was living off of credit card advances and eating top ramen and oatmeal for dinner and sometimes sleeping in my car and things like that. So kind of a rough way to start out. But along the way, they say more money, more problems, right? So as the success grew, I faced challenges of betrayals and issues with business partners and just some really awful things happened relationship wise within several of my businesses, and I had to rebuild and reinvent myself several times. But the major transformations, the positive transformations, they all happen in the midst of tragedy, right? You don't have a major transformation in the midst of prosperity.
Sure.
It's always, almost always, I should say, in the midst of tragedy.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, in a big way, this group had started through some of my own pain, right? And trying to grow through it instead of going through it. So some valuable lessons, certainly for everybody in their own pain. You built a thriving insurance business, mentored a lot of people along the way. Curious, Darren, what key qualities do you believe that every leader that either you've mentored or developed along the way, what's most important for all the leaders, the dads in business in this group, when balancing the family responsibilities with their professional ambitions as they're going through all the challenges?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest characteristic that you've really got to develop as a leader is resiliency. All right, the expectation that your life is going to be smooth sailing is you're setting yourself up for disappointment because life can be very cruel, it can be very unfair, and can be just chocked with challenges, and you're going to get knocked down several times usually. And so the skill set to be able to get back up and keep moving forward is not an easy thing to do. But if you're going to be a leader, you've got to be able to do that. And that leadership role can obviously be in business. Again, that's the context we're talking about. But it's also being a leader in your marriage and a leader in your family, a leader as a father. And you need to be the poster child for resiliency,
Yep.
because everyone's watching you, right? Like even the things I'm going through right now, I have a lot of eyeballs on me, and they're all looking to see how I'm going to respond and react to this awful. I mean, it's the worst possible thing that could ever happen to a human being, and especially a father, is what I'm dealing with right now. And so I'm trying to be a beacon of light and hope and encouragement, and
Yeah, maybe let's get to that, Darren.
sure.
For those that are just getting to know you here in the group today, they don't know that you've recently suffered the loss of your only son in the past couple months, and having followed you for a while now, since I've met you a couple years ago. I've seen the time that you share with your family. I've seen how dedicated a father you are to your son, and you and your wife, and all that you did together, and surfing out in Hawaii, and just the smiles on your faces were contagious enough. That gave me something, frankly, as a dad of an only child in business, to aspire to. And we were watching then, right? And your message was positive, and it remains positive, and if anything, it's more positive. Um, Through the unimaginable pain that it has been, and that it likely will continue to be for you, I'm sure, for you and your wife. What are the things what are the silver linings, if there are any, that have brought some perspective to you so far?
Yeah, there's been three categories of people in our lives since this has all happened. Category one are very close friends that we thought would show up for us, that we hoped would show up for us, and they have really showed up for us in a very beautiful way. The second category is people that we thought would show up for us that didn't. And that was really disappointing. Even family that has not shown up has been very disappointing. But the third category of people are people that we never thought would show up for us, that came out of nowhere, that have shown up for us in such uh, an amazingly beautiful way. It's really kind of restored a little bit of my faith in humanity,
Mm-hmm.
just the kindness and the compassion and the thoughtfulness,
Yep.
and things like that. Just it's really been incredible. But I think the most important thing that we've gotten out of this, and this is the thing that will last through eternity, is coming back to this present moment. And what I mean by that is when you go through something as traumatic as what we've gone through, the natural tendency is to go back to the event. What happened? Why did it happen? How did it happen? And you have surges of anger and resentment, and why me? And those types of dark thoughts really, really surface. But one of the things that I've learned is coming into this present moment. In this present moment, what do I believe, or where do I believe my son Estevan is? Spiritually, we're Christian based. We believe that he is with God, that he is in heaven, that he's in the spiritual world, that he is free of pain, that he's happy, he's experiencing the most beautiful, deep, unconditional love that we, as human beings living on the earth at the moment, really can't fully understand. And so, in this present moment, if I believe that that is truly where his spirit is, that's where he is, then that gives me comfort. right? And it also makes me realize, we're here for but a blip of time relative to eternity. I mean, a trillion years is nothing compared to eternity. And so my perspective on business, I still work hard. I still, am focusing on what I'm doing. I still have goals and aspirations and everything. But I have zero emotional attachment to outcomes. I have
Mm-hmm.
zero ego. My ego is dead now. I don't care about accolades. I don't care about winning awards. I don't care about material items. I don't care about shiny objects. It's all meaningless to me now, and even it was before, but even more so now. And now I'm just focused on trying to live my life in my personal life as well as my business life in a way that would make my son proud, because the that was the main focus when he was here with us physically. Now he's not here with us physically, but I believe he's still here with us spiritually, and my
I
goal
saw
should not
that.
change.
Yeah, I saw that you put a smile on his face when he was here on this earth with us, and I know that you're putting a smile on his face as he's listening to this right now, Darren. You've worked hard through your challenges in the past to get to where you are in business. I'm sure family life and relationship marriage has its own set of challenges that have gotten you to where you are today, and what you're using right now to maybe grow through the challenges right now are working hard. At the end of the day, you said that you don't care about the accolades, you don't care about the ego, and we try to talk about in this group, and what I try to talk about with anybody I come across is, we don't get the days back. And the whole as the book Rich Dad Poor Dad that we all know. What about absent dad, present dad? Right, and which do we want to not be first? Right, to help us be more of that present father. It's something I've constantly been aware of, is how present am I? Am I really where my 2 feet are at any given moment, especially when I'm with my family? And, as a dad in business, with all the things that might be on our mind at any given time, the next marketing strategy, or the problem that we have with one of our employees, whatever the client it might be. What are the ways that you looked, again, from the outside, to be able to do that so well with your family? Is there anything that helped you do that, and how you organized your time or your affairs?
Yeah, a lot of people might disagree with me on this particular issue, but I really tried my best to bifurcate my focus, business versus family, and compartmentalize those two different areas.
Mm-hmm.
When I was operating in the middle of my business day, I never had pictures of my family in my office. When I was in doing business, I'm there to do business. I'm not going to be distracted by anything. But
Mm-hmm.
when I got home, I had to learn to do this. And it was not easy for me because I'm type A driver, obsessive, I had to learn to shut it down. And when I'm spending time with my family, I need to give them the same undivided, uh, single focus that I gave a client in business or advisor that I'm doing a big premium financing case with, or whatever it may be, doing a big deal with a carrier.
Yeah.
My family needed to know that when I was with them, that I was present, that they were the most important thing to me overall, and in that moment as well, that they are the most important at that time of interaction. And that's not easy to do when you're an entrepreneur, right? Because we're on 24/7,
Yeah.
but you have to shut it down to be present.
Yeah, it's one of the things I learned from Jim Rohn, listening to him many, many years ago. When you're in the office, you're thinking about the beach, the beach, the beach. But then when you're at the beach, you're thinking about the
Yeah,
office, the office,
right.
the office. You got to
Yeah.
draw a line somewhere, right? And one thing that's helped me is, we talk about core values in my team and within the group here, is treat everybody like a VIP client in the moment, like including some people say, treat somebody like Jesus, or treat everybody like a VIP client. Just show up in service to whoever you're in front of.
Mm.
Helps keep me centered. Um, but you talk about the accolades don't matter to you. At the end of the day, and maybe your perspective has shifted over time. When when our days are up, we're not taking any of that stuff with us when we go. How has such a significant loss helped you show up better? I'd be curious in your marriage, Darren, with your team. How have you showed up differently?
I think the biggest thing is my level of compassion has increased at a multiple of what it used to be. Um, I grew up being kind of a hothead, and it's something that I've really had to suppress and temper and work through. And even up until recently, when someone acts like a jerk, my initial I don't actually physically punch them in the face, but man, I wanted to punch a lot of people in the face,
Yeah,
even in recent past, right? Because it's angering when you feel an injustice, when you feel an accusation that's undeserved, anytime someone acts like a jerk towards you, my first knee jerk reaction is what a jerk. Now, having been through what I've been through, now my first reaction is I wonder what that person's going through.
hmm
Because you never know how much pain that person is in, what they have suffered, what they're suffering, how distraught they are, and they may be acting in a way that is uncharacteristic of their spirit and the person they want to be.
yeah,
And just extending people a little bit more grace
yeah.
because you don't know what they're going through, I think is a better way to live.
None of us want someone else's problems, because we never know what somebody else is going through. And if I could share my perspective from what I've seen you do, Darren, through it all, is be the contagious person, the beacon of light, to help us do that in our own lives, and with the people that might be going through something difficult themselves. Um, you know, with all that you've accomplished in business, you've been married for how long?
Just over 18 years.
18 years, going on 20. I hope you're planning something, a big hurrah. And is there, one time where it all kind of really came down on you, where, you thought you were gonna have to run away from it all? Was there any one real hot moment that sticks out, and what got you through it?
Yeah, 16 of our 18 years has been amazing. The first 2 years of our marriage, we're like cats and dogs. You got two driven type A personalities, two giant egos.
Yeah.
We were both running 100 miles an hour. We were both running our own organizations, um, 12, 14-hour days. And even when our son was, 1 year, 2 years old, my wife would be running through the grocery store in her stilettos and her business suit and after the end of the day and come home and cook us this amazing meal. And she could and still could do it all. The challenge was that we weren't a unit. We were two strong, independent people trying to live together and trying to build something together.
hmm
And my wife, God bless her, she realized what was happening and she made a conscious effort to tell herself, I'm going to trust this man to lead us, to be head of household, to make the decisions for our family that need to be made. And she took an emotional back seat and just supported me as opposed to tried to run side by side with me.
Yeah.
And that was a transformative moment. From that moment on, our marriage went to a whole different level. And I think a lot of women, people in general, but like a lot of women are afraid to kind of give up that control to quote unquote submit, right? They think that somehow they're going to lose power. In
hmm
reality, I think, and you can ask my wife this too, I think she felt empowered by doing so because when she made that decision and that gesture of trusting me completely, that made me want to serve her even more
Sure.
and give her even more quote unquote power or whatever you want to this decision making authority over things because I thought, man, if she's gonna trust me in this area, I want to reciprocate and trust her in these
Yep.
other areas where she's stronger than I am.
Yeah.
So that was massively transformative to our marriage.
Yeah. Very, very interesting. And so it was empowering for the both of you. Curious, was there a certain event that got you to really address that issue, or was there a conversation that started? How did it start?
I don't think it was one specific event. It was a gradual realization on her part. I give her full credit for figuring this out. Um, it was a gradual realization that something needed to change in order for us to have the type of relationship that we had always talked about, right? And we
Hmm.
were always doing relationship checkups, sometimes once a week, sometimes every other week, and we'd
Yeah.
sit down and we'd talk and say, hey, what's working, what's not working, what am I doing that's pissing you off? Here's
Yeah.
what you're doing that's really ticking me off, and how can
Yeah.
we find the solution together? And that open
So glad.
dialogue has always been very strong with us.
Yeah, my gosh, so glad we got there. I've heard of relationship checkups and do the date nights, and we try to keep a certain um, regular communication schedule. The same stuff we do with our teams. My gosh, we can pour into our employees sometimes more than we do our own relationships at home.
Isn't that true? Yeah.
Right? So I'm so glad you bring up the relationship checkup. How often would you have those?
Usually weekly, usually
Yeah.
weekly. And I did the same thing with my son. Once a week, Sunday night, we would hop in the hot tub, and it's it's father son discussion time. And I always
Hmm.
told him, you can ask me anything about anything you want. This all stays here. There's nothing you can share with me that you're gonna get punished for. And if you don't bring the content, then I'm going to bring my content. So he always had content.
Oh my gosh, Darren, so glad we got there. My gosh, if there's any words of wisdom, I mean, the relationship checkups and the heart to heart, father to son, father to daughter, heart to heart, anything you want to know about, ask me anything about anything. And if you don't have something you want to ask me, I'll tell you something.
I mean, why are we so adamant in business that we have staff meetings, weekly
Yep.
staff meetings, weekly team meetings, where we huddle up with our sales team?
Yep.
We do the retreats and we plan for the next year. Why are we so intentional with our business relationships, but we are oftentimes not as intentional with our marriage relationship and our relationship with our kids?
Absolutely.
It
And
makes
and
no
if it's not
sense.
working out at home, guess what? It's going to end up not working out at the office,
Yeah.
right? So glad we got there, Darren. Thanks for all of your insight and words of wisdom. Just to wrap up, if the the boiled down questions always, if you had to do it all over again, is there anything that you would do differently?
At the expense of sounding arrogant, I don't regret anything. And that's one of the things that my wife and I have talked about with the passing of our son. We did this incredible paddle out ceremony in Hawaii, where
Mhm.
not far where I taught him to surf, and it was a heavy, heavy day. But as we talked about it afterwards, we spent a lot of time in Hawaii as a family. There was nothing that we didn't get to experience together there that I would have wanted to experience. And with my son, there's nothing that we ever left unsaid. He knew exactly how he knew exactly how much I loved him, and I
And if
knew how
there's,
much he loved me.
yeah,
Nothing
don't
was
leave it
left unsaid. Yeah,
don't leave it unsaid.
yeah.
And for you to be able to say that, I'm sure it's provided a lot of the peace through the process for you, just to know that nothing was left unsaid. Um, Thank you so much for your words of wisdom, Darren. I've cried for you, and I will rejoice for you and the beacon that you are for everybody in your lives. Thank you for being here today. I'll look forward to seeing you hopefully up in Vermont and
Definitely.
get down more to business, right? And for anybody here that's familiar with premium life insurance financing, premium financing life insurance, there is no authority greater than Mr. Sugiyama here himself. And please look him up. Darren, where could anybody find you if they were interested in learning more?
Yeah, you can go to my business website is lionsmarkcapital.com, LIONSMARK capital.com. You can also go to my personal site at darrensugiyama.com, where I have all my books and things of that nature.
Great. And we'll put some, I'll throw some comments in here with some links. And can't thank you enough again for being here, Darren. And wish you all the best. Look forward to being in touch in the near future.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, my man. Thank you, Darren. Take care.